Hi, I'm Aaron, 34, and last month I drove 4 hours to stop my baby sister's wedding. I walked in during the rehearsal dinner, soaking wet from the rain, holding a folder of emails and proof she never saw coming. Her fiancé stood up, smug as ever. But he sat down fast. I was in my truck when she called me. Jess, 29, our family's second son. The kind of woman who makes seating charts like battle plans and thinks about cake tastings the way I think about engine specs. She said, "Hey Aaron, it's probably nothing, but do you remember Chase's old friend Tyler?" Yeah, I remembered. He was the one who tried to pants me during that beach volleyball game at the engagement party. Grown man, energy of a raccoon in a Red Bull can. Jess continued. He called me weird today. Said something about a second apartment Chase uses when he's in L.A. for work. I laughed it off, but then he got quiet. Like he regretted saying it. That's when my gut did its thing. You know the feeling. That siren in your stomach that says something is off. I'm a mechanic. A technical trainer now, actually. I teach guys how to take apart hybrid transmissions and not die doing it. My hands know lies. A misaligned bolt tells a story. I can look at a brake pad and tell you how a person drives. And when my sister said, "Second apartment," I knew. Send me his number. I told her. Silence. Then, why? Because you don't dig into something like this. You let someone else do it. Someone who doesn't flinch. That's me. I'm the flinch buffer. The big brother. When our dad left, I was 13 and broke into our own garage to fix the furnace because Mom couldn't afford a tech. I carried Jess piggyback after her third-grade field trip because her shoes gave her blisters. I taught her how to drive in my beater Camry. I made sure no boy ever treated her like a placeholder. But now here she was, engaged to a guy who owned 3 button-downs and 1 voice, the salesman one. That night I made calls. 1 to a friend in utilities. 1 to a buddy who works insurance. 1 to a girl I dated for 4 months who now does admin at a downtown leasing office. By the next morning, I had a partial address, a renter ID in his name, and a date-stamped maintenance request from 4 months ago. Leak under kitchen sink. Tenant unavailable, girlfriend met super instead. Girlfriend. That word hit like a crowbar to the chest. I stared at the printout. The name listed wasn't Jess. Wasn't even close. The wedding was in 5 days. And I was going to burn it to the ground. I didn't tell Jess right away. I couldn't. Not until I had it airtight. She has this thing where she tries to explain away pain. Give her a bruise and she'll say she walked into something. Give her betrayal and she'll look for how she caused it. I needed more than a leaky sink. So I got in the truck and headed for L.A. 4 hours, 3 gas station coffees, and 1 phone call later, I was outside the address tied to the maintenance request. It was in Westwood, clean stucco, too many succulents, the kind of place you rent when you want to seem stable but still dodge commitment. The front door had a wreath on it. Not the kind Jess would make. Too trendy. Too curated. This one had a little wooden sign hanging in the middle, good vibes only. I knocked once. Then again. I was about to leave when the door cracked open and a woman, early 30s, yoga pants, messy bun, holding a French bulldog, blinked at me. "Can I help you?" I kept my tone even. "Sorry to bother. I'm looking for Chase Donovan. This is the address tied to his renter's ID." Her eyes narrowed. "He's not here. But he lives here?" She hesitated, then pulled the dog closer. "He stays here. Sometimes." "What is this about?" I pulled out my badge. Not a cop badge, my work ID. Federal Safety Instructor seal in the corner. She didn't need to know the difference. "Just confirming some employment info. Is he your landlord?" She shook her head slowly. "No. My boyfriend." Then added like a reflex, "Since last year." My stomach dropped. I thanked her, gave her a fake last name, and backed off like the sidewalk was on fire. In my truck, I gripped the wheel and let myself feel it for 3 whole seconds. Then I started making copies. I printed photos from her public Instagram. Chase on her couch, Chase walking the dog, Chase holding up a key with a smug little grin. I added screenshots of the lease info, the maintenance request, the tagged birthday photo from Our trip to Big Sur Red Heart. I built the folder. Then I called Jess. Hey, I said. You still want me to do that airport pickup Thursday? Of course. She chirped, distracted. Wait, can you bring the toasting flutes? Mom left them at your place. I said yes. I didn't tell her what else I was bringing. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night. At some overpriced vineyard with candles everywhere and not enough food. I arrived late. Walked in soaked to the bone, rainstorm, naturally. Jess saw me and lit up. Chase saw me and blanched. I walked straight to the table, dropped the folder next to Chase's plate, and said, Might want to read that before dessert. Gasps. Forks froze. Jess looked at me, confused. Chase opened the folder. His face did the thing guilty people do, not panic, but strategy. Like he was flipping through excuses in his head. And then the woman next to him, his aunt? Cousin? I didn't care, pulled out one of the printouts and read aloud. Happy 1 year, babe. You're my home. Dead silence. Jess's voice was small. Erin, what is this? I turned to her, gentle. It's the truth. It's your out. If you want it. She looked down at the folder. Then she looked at him. And everything started to crack. Jess stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. She didn't notice. Her eyes were locked on Chase like she was seeing a stranger, and maybe she was. The room went dead quiet except for a spoon clinking against the side of a wine glass someone had nervously tapped, then froze mid-toast. Chase, she said, soft but steady. Is this real? He didn't answer right away. He glanced around the table like he was looking for backup. His mom, his brother, one of the groomsmen, but nobody was making eye contact. And that's the thing about lies, when they crack, people scramble to avoid the fallout. Jess stepped closer, picked up the top page, the one with the Big Sur photo, and read the caption out loud. Her voice didn't break. That was scarier. 1 year, 3 cities, 2 keys, 1 heart. She held it up like evidence. Who is she? Chase finally spoke. Jess, wait, it's not. She cut him off. Don't tell me it's not what it looks like. You don't get to play that card. Not with my brother standing here holding a folder full of timestamps and proof. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I wanted her to own this moment. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I wanted her to see it. To stop minimizing. To stop folding herself up just to fit someone else's idea of enough. Chase tried again, more desperate now. It was complicated. I never meant for it to. Stop, she said. Not a yell. A command. You cheated on me. You lied. You asked me to plan a future with you while you were already living one with someone else. She turned to me. How long have you known? 2 days, I said. I spent them checking facts. I wasn't going to bring it to you unless I was sure. She looked at me then, eyes glossy but clear. You were sure? Yeah. Jess looked back at Chase and said, You can go. He blinked. What? You can leave. I won't scream. I won't throw anything. But you're not finishing this dinner. You're not walking me down an aisle you don't belong at. He didn't move. So I stepped forward. Just enough. Just close enough for him to get the message. He left. The doors shut with a soft thud. Everyone sat in stunned silence. A couple people whispered. One bridesmaid started crying, probably from shock, maybe relief. Jess stood there, shoulders back, like she was trying to hold up the whole ceiling with just her spine. Then my aunt, bless her chaos-loving heart, said, Well, should we box up the shrimp or what? That broke the tension. Jess finally exhaled. She looked at me and said, I don't have a fiancé. No, I said, but you've got a brother who drove 4 hours in a thunderstorm. And for the first time in too long, she smiled. We didn't go home right away. Jess and I sat in my truck for 2 hours after the dinner ended, engine off, rain drumming steady on the roof. Her dress was bunched in her lap, the zipper already halfway undone. One bobby pin stuck in her hair like a flag of surrender. She stared straight ahead and said, You know what the worst part is? I thought I'd be more upset. You're allowed to feel however you feel. I feel relieved. That's messed up, right? No, I said, turning toward her. It's honest. You've been holding your breath for months. She laughed. Sharp. Then softer. You remember when he proposed? At that vineyard with the drone photographer and the champagne table? Yeah. Hard to forget. I was so overwhelmed by the flash mob I didn't even hear the question. I said yes because everyone was already clapping. That sat in the air between us for a minute. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out the ring. Gold band, fat stone, way too shiny for someone like Jess, who wears threadbare hoodies and forgets she owns heels. She turned it in her hand, then held it out to me. Want to pawn it and split the cash? I smirked. You always did know how to cheer a guy up. We drove back to Mom's place, where she was still prepping the guest baskets like the world hadn't just cracked open. When we walked in, she looked up from tying ribbons around little jars of homemade jam. Oh good, you're back. She stopped. Looked at Jess. Then me. Then the ring in her hand. Mom blinked. Where's Chase? Jess said flat. Gone. Pause. Gone where? Out of my life. Mom's eyes darted. Honey, wait. This is just cold feet. No, Jess said. This is a revelation. He was cheating. Aaron found the proof. My mother turned to me, jaw tight. You interfered in her relationship? I stared at her. You're mad at me? She crossed her arms. He's a good provider. He bought a house, he has a promotion lined up. Do you think that just grows on trees? Jess interrupted. He had another apartment, Mom. Another girlfriend. Another life. And here's the thing about my mother, she knows how to pivot when she's losing. So she sighed and said, well, I always had doubts. He never looked me in the eye. Jess and I shared a look. That was the moment we both knew we were on our own. No cavalry coming. No maternal backup. Just the two of us and a ring that no longer meant anything. We spent the next day canceling vendors. Turns out, a lot of people are way too excited to hear from a bride in crisis. Jess started answering the phone like, hi, yes, my wedding exploded, I'd like a refund. A few felt sorry for her. Most didn't care as long as the deposit cleared. And then, around 2 p.m., she looked at me across her laptop and said, you want to do something stupid? I shrugged. I did just drive 4 hours and end a marriage. She grinned. Let's do something better. 2 hours later, we were on the road again. Destination Vegas. Vegas wasn't the plan. That was the whole point. Jess booked the hotel with my credit card while I drove. She picked the one with the rooftop pool and pink neon signs that looked like they'd been dipped in sarcasm. When we pulled up, 2 valets stared at my muddy truck like it had personally offended them. Jess grinned at them. She's vintage. They did not laugh. The suite had zebra carpet and a mirrored ceiling, I'm not joking, and a minibar that looked like it had been stocked by a drunk raccoon with a sugar addiction. Jess opened it, took out 2 mini bottles of something that smelled like coconut regret, and said, to canceled weddings and better beginnings. We clinked. We sipped. We gagged. By 8 p.m., she was in sweatpants, her hair in a bun, scrolling through old texts from Chase with a pen in her hand, crossing them out one by one like she was editing a bad novel. I watched her and said, you know, I always figured I'd be the sibling who'd wreck a wedding. I didn't expect it to be yours. Or mine. Jess looked up. You almost got married? I shrugged. Once. Sort of. Got as far as picking the date. She sat up straighter. Wait, what? You never told me this. That's because Mom hated her. She used to say she had fox energy. Whatever that meant. Jess laughed so hard she snorted. Then she got quiet. Did she break your heart? No. I think I broke mine staying too long. It's worse when you know, and you stay anyway. You ever get that feeling? She nodded. Every time I tried to talk myself into loving Chase more than I did. We sat in that for a while. The room felt less gaudy. The air less neon. Then she pulled out her phone and said, okay. I'm going to text everyone. You sure? Yeah. I want it in my words. She crafted a single sentence. Wedding's off, I'm okay, thank you for the love. More later. Then she hit send and set her phone face down. You want to go out? I asked. Nah. she said, lying back on the absurd zebra bedspread. I want greasy room service and to watch an action movie where someone explodes. We ordered fries, chicken tenders, a chocolate shake, and Die Hard. She fell asleep halfway through, the shake untouched, her hand still holding the remote. I sat next to her, scrolled my email, and found a message from one of the vendors. We understand. We've processed your refund. All the best. All the best. I stared at those 3 words for a long time. Then I looked at Jess. And I thought, she might actually be. The next morning, we woke up to a voicemail from our mother that could have won an Oscar for Best Performance in Guilt. Jessica, it's me. I heard what Aaron did. You don't need to burn everything down just because of one misunderstanding. Chase is devastated. Think of the future. Think of the children. Jess stared at the speakerphone like it had just insulted her shoes. I don't even want kids right now. And I'm pretty sure Chase already has one with his side girlfriend named Bryn who's really into astrology and homemade jam. I raised a brow. Bryn? Yeah. Found her LinkedIn. She makes artisanal marmalade and runs a small Etsy for macrame dog sweaters. She's adorable. I kinda want to date her myself. We decided not to call Mom back. Instead, we did something that would have made her jaw fall off. We made a new plan. Jess said, What if I still want a celebration? I said, You mean a wedding? She said, No. A me party. And somehow, it just made sense. She booked a room at a little desert venue just outside the city, not to get married, just to exist. She invited the people who showed up for her, not the ones who made her doubt herself. And because she's Jess, she called it the wedding that wasn't. Dress code chaotic formal. Theme, rebirth but with snacks. I wore a blazer over a NASA t-shirt. Jess wore her rehearsal dinner dress with combat boots and a tiara she bought from a Halloween store that morning. There was a make-your-own taco bar. A playlist full of angry 2000s pop-punk. One of her bridesmaids brought cupcakes in the shape of little broken hearts. When people asked what we were celebrating, she raised her glass and said, Freedom. And the best big brother on the planet. I pretended to bow. She made me do a toast. I kept it short. To the moment you realize the life you thought you wanted was just a life someone else picked out for you. And to the courage it takes to say, actually, I'll choose my own. Applause. Laughter. Jess beamed. Later that night, just the 2 of us sitting on the curb behind the venue, splitting the last cupcake, she looked at me and said, You know, I didn't even love him. I nodded. I figured. I loved the idea. The photos. The monogram towels. You can still have towels. She laughed. Yeah. But they're gonna say Jessica freaking Hall. Because I am done being someone's +1 to my own life. I leaned back on my elbows. The desert stars were stupidly bright. Jess wiped a crumb from her cheek and sighed like her lungs were finally hers again. Then her phone buzzed. Who is it? I asked. She looked. Mom. Pause. She says she wants to talk. I raised an eyebrow. You ready for that? Jess looked at the night sky, then back at me. I think I want her to hear my version of events for once. Not the sugar-coated kind. She didn't call back. She hit record on her voice memo app. And she started talking. Jess didn't hold back. She sat there on the curb in her tiara and boots, cupcake frosting still smudged on her thumb, and let years of swallowed words pour out like she'd finally unzipped her ribs. The voice memo ran 17 minutes long. I didn't say a thing. I just sat there, quiet witness, while she told the story her way. She started with Chase. With how Mom had practically shoved her into his arms. He's stable, he's a provider, he's tall. Jess said she used to joke that Chase didn't have a personality, just a height. But Mom loved him, so Jess convinced herself it was enough. Then she backed up. Talked about how every birthday growing up was shared with someone else's celebration. How she was never allowed to cry without being told, be grateful, at least you have a roof over your head. How she learned early that if you wanted to be loved in our family, you had to be low maintenance. She said, I shrank so Mom could breathe easier. And every time I tried to take up a little space, she handed me a measuring tape. I'd heard Jess cry before. Quietly, into a pillow after a breakup. That one time her dog died and she pretended it was allergies. But this wasn't crying. This was release. A kind of emotional molting. She finished with, I didn't call off the wedding because Aaron gave me proof. I called it off because someone finally showed me what it looked like to be loved without an agenda. She hit stop. Saved the file. Sat still for a moment. You sending it? I asked. She stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the message box. Then she shook her head. No, she said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It felt good just to say it. We drove back to the hotel in silence, the good kind. Jess fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow, one boot still on, her tiara sideways. I pulled a blanket over her and turned off the light. The next morning, the hotel gave us late checkout. We took full advantage. Waffles in bed. Jess got syrup on her elbow and pretended it was intentional. At 11:48 a.m., Mom called again. Jess let it go to voicemail. At 12:05, Ben called. Jess answered this time. Hey, she said. No, it's okay. I'm fine. No, I don't want to talk to her yet. No, I'm not coming to Sunday dinner. Then she paused, nodded. Yeah, tell Grandma I'm good. Tell her I found my voice. She hung up. Looked at me. Do you think they'll ever get it? I shrugged. Some will. Some won't. But that's not your job anymore. We packed up the truck. Jess stuffed the tiara in the glove box like it might come in handy again. Where to now? I asked. She leaned back in her seat, sunglasses on, window down, wind catching her hair like a movie trailer. Home. But like my version of it. I started the engine. And just like that, my sister, the one who used to fold herself up to fit everyone's expectations, started unfolding. Back home, things didn't exactly settle. They just restructured. Mom sent a fruit basket. Handwritten card inside. Families stick together. Let's move on. Jess tossed the card. Kept the pears. She didn't go back to her apartment. Too many memories that smelled like lies and that weird vanilla candle Chase always lit when he was guilty. Instead, she moved in with me for a while. We rearranged the guest room. Added fairy lights, a second-hand desk, and a corkboard labeled, My Life, My Terms. Every week, a new sticky note went up. Monday. Apply to that damn art program. Thursday. Return the monogram towels. Get refund. Or burn them. Saturday. Dinner with Aaron. I'm paying. We didn't talk about Chase much. We didn't need to. He tried to reach out once, a weirdly formal email with phrases like, emotional misalignment, and room to revisit. Jess forwarded it to me with the subject line, Man tries to reverse light a dumpster fire. She never replied. The wedding deposits slowly trickled back. Not all, but enough to soften the blow. Jess got her job back at the gallery she left during wedding mode. Her boss hugged her and said, About time you came home. As for Mom? She tried again. Dinner invites. Long voicemails. Group texts with Ben about mending fences before the holidays. Jess replied once. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting me. That's not betrayal, that's finally showing up for myself. Then she muted the thread. The biggest shift came one quiet Tuesday night. I was doing dishes. Jess walked into the kitchen in socks and said, You ever think you're the background guy? I blinked. Yeah? All the time. I like the background. She leaned on the counter. Me too. Or, I thought I did. Turns out I just like not being punished for being visible. I dried my hands. That why you signed up for the open mic night? She grinned. Damn right it is. And she did it. 2 weeks later. She stood in a little coffee shop downtown, read a short piece called The Wedding That Wasn't. And people stood up when she finished. Someone shouted, Preach! I filmed the whole thing. Sent it to Grandma. Her reply? She finally sounds like she owns the stage. Took long enough. Now? Jess is not fixed. But free. And that's better. She signed a lease on a tiny studio apartment with exposed brick and bad plumbing. She painted one wall teal and told me it's her chaos corner. I helped her hang shelves. We didn't even argue. This morning, she sent me a photo, her in a thrifted leather jacket, holding a coffee mug that says, "Unapologetically complicated." Caption: "Would have made a terrible bride. Making a great human instead." I wrote back, "Finally." She replied, "Mom says she's disappointed in me." Then a second text, "But hey, for once I'm not." And that's how my sister's wedding became her liberation. Not every story needs a walk down the aisle. Sometimes, the real ceremony is the moment you walk away. And mean it.